Hello and welcome to this live video on how to conquer your performance nerves or your performance anxiety with the Alexander technique. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jennifer Roig-Francolí, and just really briefly, I am a professional violinist and certified Alexander technique teacher, and my specialty is to coach musicians to help them overcome all kinds of physical, mental, and emotional blockages to fully enjoying your music in any circumstances. So I'm really excited about today's topic. Performance anxiety is a real thing. Everybody here is a musician. You know it's a real thing, right? You know what it feels like. But you are definitely here in the right place if you have experienced performance anxiety and if you want better control over yourself under any circumstances. Like even when everything goes wrong the day of the performance, you're running late, you're stuck in traffic, you show up late, hopefully not, but and who knows, maybe there's a critic in the front row or somebody you really don't want to see and they're sitting right there in front of you. You know what I'm talking about, right? So if you want better control over your mind and body physical responses to anxiety, this is the place to be because I'm going to be sharing really important information in this video about mistakes that people make. There's misunderstanding about how to deal with performance anxiety. I even see it in some of the real experts that are known for helping and working with performance anxiety. There are just some really big misconceptions about how to deal with it that I want to talk about. And you're in the right place here if you need better tools. You don't have things that work consistently. So I'm really happy you're here. Before I dive in, I just want to say hello to everybody here. I'm seeing people coming on. And if you happen to see a notification from eCam that's requesting you to give permission, then if you do that, I can actually see your names. But unfortunately, otherwise, I don't think I'll be able to see your name. You can put your name into the comments and if you want, and then I'll just see who you are. Or you can be anonymous, which is totally fine. So my promise to you today is that by the end of this class, and by the way, I'm really thinking of this as a class, a little different from most of the Facebook Live videos that I do. I'm really thinking of this as an organized class where I want you to leave with a better understanding of performance anxiety and what to do about it. I'm going to give you a lot of value, and everything I'm talking about is not just theory. It absolutely works, and it works consistently. And I've worked with hundreds of musicians to help them with this over time. So you're in the right place if you want something that works. And I'm very happy you're here, by the way. Oh, Zamba's here. Hi, I just saw your name in the comment. Great, glad you're here. So in return, because I am going to be giving you a lot of value, I'm going to be talking a lot. You might want to jot things down, take notes. It's totally up to you. But I want you to open up your mind to learning. So please go into learning mode and commit to really just being present with me. So you might want to shut off your phone, turn off other distractions, maybe even take this page on Facebook and make it its own page so you don't have other tabs and stuff like that going on. And I want you to really, take in the information so that you can start implementing it, so that you can actually, take action on these things and not just let it be vague, abstract information, but, ideas that you can really test out and try for yourself. Okay, so in this class, you're going to learn what does and doesn't work to help with performance anxiety. And I'm going to share 3 of the biggest mistakes that I see musicians making and my 3-part solution to helping you to overcome performance anxiety using the Alexander technique. Now, I'm not going to be talking much about the Alexander technique itself in this video because that's not really the main focus of this video. If you want to learn more specifics about the Alexander technique and how it can help you, I've got tons of YouTube videos, but just be aware that the way I teach Alexander technique is really different from how most people these days teach the Alexander technique because I don't use my hands. I use a system called Primal Alexander, developed by Mia Morales, and I've been training in that for over 6 years, and it's specifically how to help a student recognize what they're doing with their thinking, with their bodies, so that you as a student can get really good at observing yourself, knowing what you're doing that's getting in the way and causing the problems that you have, whether they're physical or emotional, or performance anxiety is the big one we're talking about here. You get to observe yourself in a special way so you know exactly what you're doing, and then you learn exactly what to do to shift your thinking to get different results in your whole self. Primal Alexander is absolutely pure Alexander technique that goes back to the origins of what Alexander did for himself before he was teaching for years without his hands, before he started using his hands. So it really is back to the foundations, the origins of the Alexander technique, and it's very, very powerful. I don't even use my hands anymore, and I've been teaching exclusively online since 2018. I started teaching online in like 2012. So this is my specialty. And like I said, I've helped hundreds of musicians over the internet over the years. And so I'm excited to share this way of working, but I'm not going to go into the details of how to practice Primal Alexander, because that's not what this is about. This is more about how I look at performance anxiety and putting Alexander technique into this context. Okay. So, I love how somebody here wrote, do things so you take action and not influence alone. I like that. Oh, great, Zamba. Thank you for commenting. I appreciate that. Wonderful. Okay. So just to finish up my intro here, I just want to make sure that you stay to the end if you find this interesting, because at the end I'm going to be sharing just really briefly about my upcoming program, which actually starts Saturday. I'm so excited. The Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough is a 6-week program that is all about how to take care of your whole self and bring your best self into performance, so that you can heal your body, relax your body, overcome performance anxiety, basically break through whatever's holding you back. And 100% money back guaranteed, by the way, because this works. So I'm going to tell you more about that at the end, and I'm going to give you a special code or special something for a discount at the end if you're interested in that. So make sure you catch that at the end. And if you're watching the replay, just know that that's there towards the end of the video. Okay? So, and I'll just tell you now, if you're interested and you want me to reach out to you about the Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough so we can see if it's a good fit for you, just all you need to do is type in harmonics. That's the game today. Just type in the word harmonics and I will reach out to you. Of course, you can reach out to me anytime, but that just tells me you're interested, and we'll connect, and I'll give you all the details, including the dates for the live group sessions and how to sign up for, private sessions, and, all the details and the investment level. That's going to be something that we can talk about individually. I don't want to take the time from this class to go into all those details. So just type in harmonics if you've never worked with me before and you would be interested in the Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough. Okay, so I am just going to give you a very brief background about myself in the context of performance anxiety. So just so you know, I've been there. I know what it is. I know all about the heart racing. I know all about, feeling really uncomfortable in your body. And again, like I said, I'm a professional violinist. I've been playing the violin my entire life, basically since I was 4. And the funny thing is I didn't have any performance anxiety when I was a kid. I just really liked to play the violin, and I learned the Suzuki method, and we were on stage before we even knew how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. We were just there holding our violins and enjoying the attention, right? So it was fun. It was a group experience with friends, and very positive audience, clapping no matter what you did. So as a kid, I did not have that. I was just excited about playing my violin, making music, and communicating with others. So I was single-mindedly focused on becoming a solo violinist. And through my teenage years, I actually became pretty successful. I won some international competitions. I was featured in Time magazine. I had played at Carnegie Hall a couple times. So, it was really going the way I had intended. And I even had the great opportunity to study with Nathan Milstein. If you're a violinist, you've heard of Nathan Milstein most likely. I studied with him for 5 summers. I studied with Joseph Gingold at Indiana University. Basically, I did everything right to have a successful solo career. And I was playing with the Pittsburgh Symphony as a soloist and the Berlin Symphony Orchestra. So it was happening. But long story short, I decided to change directions when I was 19, actually. And I dropped my solo ambitions completely. I got married at 20 and just shifted towards doing more orchestral music. I played in chamber music groups. I did a lot of gigging. I did freelancing in Chicago. At some point, I kind of felt like I'd done it all, even though, of course, I hardly had done it all. But I did do a McDonald's commercial. So I've done like tons of stuff. But I never really had performance anxiety become an issue until I was a member of the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra in Rochester, New York. And suddenly there I was in the back of the second violin section because that's where they had an opening and I won the job. So you'd think that that would be easier for somebody who's used to being a soloist or playing concertmaster. Well, no, for me, actually, that was really challenging because I didn't want to stick out. And so I worked really hard to blend and play softer. And I just felt my whole system starting to shrink. And I didn't understand why I was so nervous. It didn't make logical sense to me at the time. It makes a lot of sense now. But at the time, I had been diagnosed with an essential tremor, which I still have, that I still deal with. It's not an issue for me because I know how to deal with it now, and I teach students how to deal with essential tremors. But at that time, that was way pre-Alexander technique. I had a tremor and it got worse. And there I was in the back of the seconds and my bow was shaking and I'm trying to not be heard. And it was horrible. So I'm sure you can relate to the feeling of being shaky. And by the way, put into the comments, tell us your experience. I mean, do you have, when does your performance anxiety show up? Is there a certain situation? For some people, it's easier to play for people they know. Sometimes it's harder to play for people they know. Sometimes it's scary to be a soloist, and sometimes it's scary to be in the back of the seconds trying to blend with everybody. Everybody's different, but the manifestation of performance anxiety is, well, there are lots of different types of symptoms, but basically it's the same thing in everybody. It is a startle response. You are going into a fear-based mode of being and thinking, and that causes problems. It causes mental problems, emotional problems, and physical problems, and therefore it kind of blocks you from really being able to express yourself freely through your instrument. So again, oh yeah, and I promised in some of the materials I sent out before this, I wanted to tell you really quick about a story in which I almost wanted to stop performing forever because I was so freaked out. Okay, so I was the concertmaster in this instance and soloist for a piece called the Chanson Poème, which is a really challenging technical piece for the violin, for the violin soloist. And I had 2 performances, 2 nights in a row. I went to the performance, I was on stage, and before I knew it, suddenly I realized that I had been pretty much unconscious for most of the first page. If you're a violinist and you know the Chanson Poème, you know it's really challenging. And so imagine, I suddenly came back to consciousness and I find myself, I'm observing myself playing this piece in front of hundreds of people. And I don't know where my brain was. My mind was like out to lunch. Maybe I was even thinking about lunch. I don't know where my body was. I had dissociated so much that I wasn't even aware of what I was doing. And suddenly I came back into my body, so to speak, and became present to what was going on. And I freaked out internally. Thankfully, not externally. I didn't screw up. I didn't miss a beat. I just kept playing. Nobody knew. But I knew. I knew that I was not present for the whole first page. And that was so terrifying because I thought, oh my God, I didn't screw up this time, but what if this happens again and I screw up? I mean, even thinking about it right now, you can probably feel my nervous tension as I'm showing it to you, right? It makes me shake just thinking about how horrible that experience was. So I don't know if any of you have had a horrible performance experience in the past that freaked you out, but that is my biggest one because I was really afraid to play from memory for years after that. And it took me a long time to get over it. Thankfully, I did have that second night performance, and you bet I was paying attention. I was there. But I'm telling you this story not just to show you that I have been there. I know what it's like to freak out and feel all the tension and the shakiness and the discomfort and the stomach ache, all that stuff that goes with performance anxiety. Been there. But years after that experience, I'm not going to go into that whole story now, but I did come across this magical, wonderful, fantastic thing called the Alexander technique, which I was drawn to because I had neck pain. And my neck pain wasn't cured by doctors or chiropractors or anything like that. Nothing worked. So last resort, I ended up at an Alexander teacher's studio, and it completely changed my life because my pain was gone in a couple of sessions. I felt incredible, and I could have just stopped there, but my whole mental, physical, emotional outlook had shifted so dramatically. It's like I was in love with life again, and I had not been very happy before that. It's part of why I had the pain. But I was totally drawn into the Alexander technique to the point that I kept studying it, did a 3-year teacher training, traditional teacher training. And then, as I told you before, I'm still bringing in more knowledge and training. I've been training for more than 6 years in hands-free Primal Alexander. So I live it, I love it, and I adore sharing this with you all. So that's my story in a nutshell. Of course, there's more on my website if you want to learn more about my background. But now let's dive into the teaching portion of this video, which is all about how to conquer performance anxiety with the Alexander technique. I'm going to do this in 2 parts. So first part is sharing 3 common mistakes that musicians make that really don't work in trying to deal with performance anxiety. They're very common. You'll probably recognize these, at least some of it in yourself. And then part 2, I'm going to talk about my 3-part solution framework to working with performance anxiety that absolutely works. Okay. So let's dive into those 3 mistakes. Actually, before we do that, I just want to hop over and I welcome you to put your name into the Facebook comments here because I cannot, sadly, see the names of the people who are here. But I do want to acknowledge that you're here and thank you so much for showing up live. And if you're watching the replay, I always go back and comment on the comments afterwards. So if you have questions, I may not be able to read all the comments today, although I'm planning on leaving a little bit of time at the end for Q&A if you have questions. But just so you know, I am so welcoming your comments and your feedback and any of your own stories, just put them in there. And I will circle around afterwards to check out what everybody wrote. And I would love to interact with you there in the chat, if not here during the live video. Okay. So, oh yeah, somebody said you began violin at 4. Yep, that's me. Oh, that is so sweet. Everyone in this group is lucky to have you. Oh, thank you very much. I'm probably going to put this video up onto YouTube at some point because I usually do, but I'm doing this video right now just for my free Facebook group called The Musician's Advantage. And if you're not a member of that, please, join. It's free. There's tons of useful information in there. Okay, so let's dive into the 3 big mistakes and very common mistakes that musicians make when they're trying to overcome performance anxiety. Okay, mistake number 1 is having an incomplete understanding of how to prepare in advance of a performance. Now, most musicians are well aware that they need to be musically prepared. Obviously, if you're performing a piece, you need to have studied the piece. You need to learn the piece. You kind of have to know how the accompaniment goes. Like, you need to have all the musical things in place. You need to do your homework. You have to learn the piece. You have to be prepared. You can't cram unless you're at a very high level. Then for sure, you'll be able to sight read. And I've done that many times. If you're gigging and maybe you just got called the day before, no time to practice, and you show up on the spot and sight read. Obviously, you're not preparing that music because you didn't even get it in time, but you've done lots of musical preparation over a long period of time. You've learned how to play your instrument. You know how to get the sound that you want. You know how to read what's on the page. Obviously, you need to be musically prepared with plenty of practice. That said, I think a lot of people over-prepare, but that's they spend too much time and second guess themselves too much. And that's another issue for another video. But anyway, that's the first thing. The obvious thing is you need to be musically prepared and technically prepared. Your skills need to be on. Okay. The not so obvious thing that people miss all the time, and this is like the meaty teaching portion of what I'm sharing here today. The not so obvious thing about being prepared for a performance is that you need to know that the unexpected is going to happen. It always does. And even if it doesn't, you need to be ready for anything, including you need to be ready just in case performance anxiety hits. I've worked with a lot of high-level musicians who don't get a lot of performance anxiety, but if there are certain conditions in place, like that critic in the front row, or not having slept well the night before, or just having raced to the concert hall and suddenly you realize you don't have the right shoes, your mind is so distracted, the unexpected is happening, and suddenly you don't know why, but you're all shaky and you find yourself not playing at your best because your system it's like you haven't prepared for the possibility that you might experience performance anxiety. And in order to prepare for that and to prepare for any unexpected things from happening and not knowing how to deal with the unexpected, you need to be preparing mentally and physically. And basically, actually, that's the same thing. You need to prepare psychophysically. You need to be prepared in your whole self for the unexpected long before the actual performance. You need to know what to do. You need to be really conscious in how you are preparing for a performance with your mental state, your mental attitude, and what's going on with you physically. You need to think about that in advance. You can't just show up to a performance and expect everything to work or expect that if you get performance anxiety, something you read in a blog post somewhere about deep breathing or 2 minutes of meditation is just going to work. Maybe you'll get lucky, maybe it'll work, but showing up at a performance or even just that morning, that's too late to be really, really, really at your best, knowing how to deal with performance anxiety. Don't leave it up to chance and don't try to cram all of this, okay? So that's mistake number 1. Mistake number 2. By the way, I want to know if you can relate to these things. So just throw in a, I get it, or yes, that's me, or, whatever you can relate to, just throw it in the comments. It's really helpful to other people to know that they're not alone, by the way. So mistake number 2 is a lack of centeredness, a lack of presence, a lack of self-integration. So presumably, if you're going into a performance situation or into a lesson, maybe your performance anxiety shows up in front of a teacher, right? It doesn't have to be like you're at Carnegie Hall. This could be, any kind of an event where you could get performance anxiety. Presumably, you're going to be making music because you want to fulfill your potential. You want to do your best. You want to show whoever's there the love that you have, the passion for the music, and you want to show them what you've done at home that sounded so great at home. You want it to sound great on stage. You want it to sound great. You want to show your teacher that you practiced, right? You want to show up and deliver the best possible music that you can make. But we usually forget that the best art, the greatest music, happens when you are doing it with your whole self, when you're bringing your whole self with presence and poise and freedom and expansiveness and joy and love and passion, and you're bringing all of it to what you're doing. The misunderstanding most people have is that if you want your performance to be all those things, if you want it to be open and free and expansive and you want to connect heart to heart, well, you need to actually practice that way. If you want your playing, you want your music to be free and relaxed and with flow and effortless technique, if you want that kind of an inspired experience that moves you and moves your audience, you actually need to practice that, because the performance is just the culmination and the expression of what you practiced. So people who think that they have to, work hard and practice hard and repeat things with concentration and really, really, really get it all right before the performance. Look at my attitude right now. Do you see how intense I'm getting? If you practice with that kind of intense concentration and focus and hard work, guess what? Your performance is going to be hard work. And you know what? If you practice that way, you're doing it with increased tension. If you go into performance and you bring that kind of tension into your performance and suddenly you feel anxious, forget about having any kind of control over yourself. If you want to have ease in a performance, if you want to be relaxed in mind, body, emotions, spirit, if you want to access flow and joyful music making, you need to learn how to do that on a daily basis in the practice room. You need to practice what you practice, you get better at. So you need to have different practice skills. Okay? And people do not understand that what we're doing is not just mental, and it's not just physical, and it's not just emotional. Performance anxiety is not just physical, it's not just mental, it's not just emotional. It's your whole self having a reaction. So having this understanding of how to be integrated and whole and to be present with that kind of ease and freedom that I'm talking about, if that's what you want as a result, you need to work that way. That's mistake number 2, is a lack of presence and self-integration, not being centered and not knowing how to be centered with your whole self. Okay, that's a big mistake and very common, unfortunately. Moving on, mistake number 3. This mistake is that when performance anxiety symptoms hit, suddenly you realize, oh my God, my heart is fluttering, or my arms are shaking, and performance anxiety. Well, the mistake is that when that happens, you try to control it. What, Jennifer? I'm supposed to control my performance anxiety. Of course I want to control my anxiety, of course, right? I mean, it seems logical that if you have performance anxiety, you should control it, right? You should calm down and relax. Well, it's a counterintuitive thing, but actually that is the wrong way to go about it. And I'll talk a little more about that later. But other common aspects of this is that you probably try to control the performance anxiety symptoms with certain things you might have picked up here and there, like a hodgepodge of solutions. Maybe you, like I said, maybe you read a blog post like the 3 ways to conquer performance anxiety, or these are the 10 tips, or what to do backstage, right? Maybe your teacher said, oh, this is what you should do. You should do deep breathing. Here are some things people do. Deep breathing, meditation, pacing around, distracting yourself, chattering away with anybody who will put up with it, right? Just like distracting yourself backstage in any of these ways. Now, some of these are better than others. Okay, I love meditating. I'm a big proponent of meditation. I do it every day. I've been meditating since I was a child. I am a serious meditator. I am 100% for meditation. But there are so many different ways to meditate. It's risky to leave that as your go-to solution when the way you meditate really doesn't have a lot to do with what you're going to be doing on stage. I'd rather have a system like what I'll talk about later, that is meditative and mindful in action. So meditation itself usually is you're kind of closing yourself off from the world. It's almost like you're ignoring the fact that you're about to go on stage, or maybe you're just paying attention to your breathing and you're not thinking about the music. It's okay, and it will help for sure, but it is not a holistic solution, in my opinion. And it might calm your nerves a little bit, but it's not nearly as effective as the things I'm going to show or talk about, pretty soon. So meditation is probably one of the best, things of the partial solutions that I've heard of. Deep breathing can also be helpful. But again, any system that separates things out so that you're just focusing on one thing, you're just focusing your mind, or you're just paying attention to your body, or you're just distracting yourself by pacing around and moving. These are all partial solutions that can be beneficial, but they're not going to give you really what you could be doing to really take care of the performance anxiety and overcome it, not just backstage, but as you're walking on stage, as you're rosining your bow, as you're tuning your instrument, as you begin playing, as you're playing the most technically challenging parts of your music, so that it's not different. You want your performance not to be different. You want to be the same person doing the same kind of thing with yourself when you're playing your instrument as when you're backstage not playing your instrument. You want your practice and your performance not to be really different, because you know how to be present and centered with your whole integrated self. So again, that mistake number 3 is trying to control yourself with inadequate tools, basically. So that sort of work, but not consistently, and they don't integrate everything that you're doing, and you can't bring it into every aspect of your performance. Okay. So those are the 3 top mistakes. So just to recap what they were, those 3 mistakes were, I'm just grabbing my notes, I don't want to say them wrong. First mistake was having an incomplete understanding of how to prepare in advance, musically and psychophysically, with your mind and body, whole self, long before the event. It's a big mistake to leave it to the morning of the performance or the night before or backstage. Don't do that. Don't leave it to chance like that. Mistake number 2, lack of self-integration and centered presence, and practicing that way long before. Mistake number 3, when the unexpected happens and performance anxiety hits, trying to control yourself with inadequate tools. Basically, trying to control yourself at all is an issue. It's not going to work if you're trying to control yourself. I'm not going to go into more details, but trust me, it's a mistake. Some of these things work partially. I'm not trying to knock any of these, but there's just such a way better solution to all this that I'm going to share with you coming up. So part 2, we're now entering into part 2 of this class. where I want to give you my 3-part solution. It's a 3-part framework that is going to help you overcome performance anxiety in a consistent and reliable and foolproof way, because you are really consciously and constructively in control of yourself. And I've talked about, the whole, like the title of this video is how to conquer performance anxiety with the Alexander technique. So obviously the solutions that I'm going to give you are in the context of my way of teaching the Alexander technique, which I mentioned before is hands-free primal Alexander. Pure Alexander technique based 100% on the principles of the Alexander technique, but in this very innovative, really great way of teaching that is systematic and just so clear and simple that it works for everybody, called Primal Alexander. So again, I'm not going to go more into how that works. That's not the topic of today's talk, but I want you to know that all the things that I'm sharing today are part of my work, and I am teaching Primal Alexander within the big picture framework of the Art of Freedom method, which is my own way of integrating your whole life as a musician and using the Alexander principles in a practical way to integrate everything that you do. So actually you learn how to do anything you want with more ease, joy, and effortlessness, not just improve your technique and your musical skills. It's really great for everything. So the big picture framework is that, my Art of Freedom method. The practical way is Primal Alexander, pure Alexander technique without the hands. And here now are the 3 steps I want to give you specifically for overcoming performance anxiety. Okay. So, all right. Step number 1. Are you ready? Tell me you're ready. I want to hear this, Jennifer. What are the solutions? Okay. Step number 1. You got to shift your priorities. Okay. What? What do you mean, Jennifer? It's funny. We live in this mind-body self, but it's like the fish that lives in water and forgets or doesn't even know it's in water, or how we forget we're dependent on air because we breathe it all the time. Well, we kind of forget that we are a whole being. We have aspects of the mind, the body, the emotions, the creative spirit, heart, love. We have all those aspects, but really we are one whole. And I talked about being centered. This is what this is about. This is about making yourself number 1. You are way more important than any performance. Put a yes in there or a Y if you agree with me. If you don't, put a no, but I hope you don't. I hope we can all agree that the human being that you are is way more important than what you do on stage. Your self-well-being, your self-care, who you are as a person is just so much more important than what you're doing with those double stops, or how maybe you might miss some notes, or you're not quite with the conductor. Who really cares? This is about living and expressing and being yourself. That's what music is about. It's about sharing yourself with others in a way that's beautiful and wakes up the emotions and the passions that will uplift you and your audience. Isn't that what you want? But we get so caught up in the details and the specifics, like, oh my God, I forgot my black shoes, or oh my gosh, I'm supposed to have a black mask and all I have is white masks. Oh, I got the dress code wrong, or oh my gosh, I didn't practice enough yesterday and I still can't play that passage, and oh no, my stand partner didn't show up and I'm going to have to do it all myself now. And I was counting on that person for counting because I can't count that part. All those things are so secondary. Maybe your violin doesn't sound good today, or you're playing on someone else's piano and it sounds really awful, right? All these things are so secondary, but we make them way more important and we forget about ourselves. We forget about our well-being. We're making something outside of us our center, actually. And that throws us off balance. Mentally, emotionally, and physically. Your body actually is thrown off balance when you don't have consciousness of yourself as center. Okay? You have to make yourself number one, your being number one. Your being is way more important than your doing. And your doing only has value in as much as it reflects your being. You might want to write that down. I don't know where that came from, but I like that. So that's step number one. You've got to shift your priorities. And to do that, you need to have a really clear purpose in mind. You need to know what you want. Why are you even performing? Why are you going on stage, putting yourself into frankly, an unnatural situation? I mean, if you were an animal and you were on stage by yourself under a spotlight in front of hundreds of people, of course that animal would get scared because there are potential predators out there that might kill you. But you're not an animal. And you can actually rise above that animal part of your brain that goes into a startle fear mode. You can consciously raise your consciousness by shifting your priorities back to taking care of your own well-being. But like I am driving home today, I'm driving all of this home to you, is that you've got to think about this way in advance. This is how you need to live. You need to know how to practice making yourself number one. If you're a people pleaser, and a lot of my students, a lot of the people that come to my programs are people pleasers because we're good, nice people. All of my students are great. I love everybody who signs up for my programs. Truly love each and every one of you. And everybody who's in my group, by the way, I really do. Gosh, that threw me off. This is true. I really love everybody. I love all of you out there. But I don't know what I was going to say with that. I totally threw myself off track. But anyway, you need to learn how to put yourself first and love yourself first. Actually, that's what it comes down to. And it's not loving to yourself to not prepare your whole self in advance of a concert. And it's not loving to forget why you're doing things so that, oh yeah, people pleasing, right? That's where I got off track, right? If you're a people pleaser, you really need to learn how to do this. You need the skills that I'm going to share with you and that I teach in the Musician's Mind Body Breakthrough, which I'm going to tell you about later. It's my program starting actually very soon. So by the way, if you want me to reach out to you with details about that, put the word harmonics into the chat right now and we will connect and I will tell you more about my program. It's starting really soon. In fact, tomorrow is the last day to register. Of course, if you're watching the replay, reach out to me anyway, because there are always options. There are always ways to study with me. So again, step number one is shifting your priorities to make yourself number one more important than your performance. And you've got to stick with that. Be committed to yourself more than your performance. And you need to be present to your experience. And very importantly, being present to your experience in the present moment means getting good at, this takes practice. You need to get good at observing how you feel in mind, body, and spirit. And you need to learn how to accept how you feel, even if you feel horrible. This is really important to practice on a daily basis because you can feel fine most days, but then you show up on, backstage and you're freaking out and you can't accept how you feel. Then you go into startle, fight, flight, freeze response, and you're trying to not feel what you feel, and then you try to control it, and then it's just downward spiral, and it's not going to work. So you need to learn how to make yourself number one, and part of that is learning how to really accept your feelings and your bodily sensations on a daily moment-to-moment basis, being with yourself, accepting and loving yourself. That has to be number one. Okay, step number two. This is step number two as a framework solution to conquering performance anxiety. All of these are big, really important. Step number two. You need to learn how to harness the power of your mind so that you can get the results you want. If you can't imagine it, you can't get it. You're leaving it up to chance. Okay. You need to learn how to use your imagination. I teach my students how to use visualization, for example, to help with performance anxiety. You really need to know how to recognize when your thinking is taking you off track. so that you can get control over unhelpful thinking, negative, self-critical thinking, fear-based, what if this terrible thing happens kind of thinking. You need to have control over your mind. You cannot let your mind get distracted and wander all over the place, going into negative territory, because what you think is reflected by your body. The symptoms you get in your body are just your innocent body reflecting what's going on in your mind. You could cure all kinds of physical ailments. Even I work with people with tendonitis and carpal tunnel and back pain, neck pain, all kinds of serious stuff. But if you don't know how to control your mind, then your body is simply reflecting the pain and suffering and chaos in your mind. You can have so much control over your physical body, and you can get yourself out of pain with systematic practice of knowing what to do with your thoughts. Recognize when you're off and you're going into a downward negative spiral, and know exactly how to think to bring yourself instantly back to integrate your mind with your body for easing and releasing of mental and physical tension. They go together. You can't do just one or the other. You can't just release mental tension and not have a nice easing happening in your body. So you need to know how to release overall tension instantly. This is not just about letting go of your shoulder. This is overall excess tension. You need to know how to balance the tension so that it is free and responsive. You need to have tone, but you need to be in charge of it. You need to know how to regulate your nervous system using the power of your mind. You can do this. It's not hard. I teach people how to do this on day one. I promise. I do. Believe it or not, I do. On day one, you learn a very specific awareness etude to start regulating your nervous system. You need to learn how to direct your energy into a creative flow state. Okay. This is not hard, but people don't know how to do this. Music teachers don't know how to do this, so that's why they don't teach you. They don't teach your students. If you're an educator, you probably haven't taught your students how to regulate their nervous systems on a consistent basis, how to undo negative thinking instantly, how to redirect energy towards flow and easing. You probably haven't taught this to your students because you don't know how to do it for yourself. If you want to help your students, take my program and learn how to do it for yourself. So anyway, this is step number 2. Learning how to harness the power of your mind to get the results you want in your body and, frankly, in your entire life. You can create what you want. It's not hard. You just have to know exactly what to do, which is what I can teach you easily. Okay, step number 3, you need to know how to organize your preparation in a systematic way in advance of your performance. You need to know how to be organized. Not just your musical practicing and leading up to the performance to make sure all of your pieces are well practiced and ready to go. That's obvious. Music teachers will take care of that. And if you are a professional, you know how to organize your practice time. And if you don't, I can help you with that too. When I do private coaching, actually a lot of the people who come to me need some support with life organization, organizing your time. If you feel like you never have enough time, then actually you probably could use a little bit of extra support on, how to manage time and organize your time on a bigger basis. But for the most part, you can find systems and ways to organize your practice time so that you're prepared in advance for performance musically. Okay, let's just take that for granted. But what most people don't have, and in fact, it's very rare for people to have a systematic way to prepare the self in advance of a performance, meaning you know how to be mentally prepared. You know how to be physically prepared. You know how to relax your whole body instantly when needed. You need to know how to release tension while you're playing so that you're only bringing the minimum effort to what you're doing. That's where effortless technique and musical creative flow comes from. It's about doing the minimum necessary, not forcing, not pushing, getting out of the way so that the creative process can happen through you. getting out of the way mentally and physically so that inspiration can happen. You become a pure channel for that musical inspiration to happen. It comes through your mind, through your body, through your heart, and reaches the people that you want to reach. You need to be able to get all the clutter, the stuff, the interference, the noisy chatter in your mind, the tension, the pain, the discomfort in your body. You need to know how to clear all of that instantly, but you can't do that if you don't have a system to practice doing that every single day. You need to know how to do that during the day, when you're driving your car, when you're doing the dishes, when you're walking down the street, when you're talking to your spouse, when you are teaching your children. You can be practicing this and you'll get really good at it. It's not hard. It's very simple, but you need to practice to build up your neural connections, build up a new habit for easing and freedom. And then you need to know how to do it systematically, specifically with your instrument in your musical practice sessions. So basically, that's step number 3. You need to have a clear, simple, step-by-step system to prepare for your performances, prepare your whole self in advance. Again, on a daily basis, you need to prepare yourself intelligently and systematically for the kind of performance you actually want. Okay. So those are the 3 common mistakes and the 3-step framework for a solution. Those are the specific things I wanted to share with you today about, how to deal with performance anxiety. So just as a recap, those 3 mistakes were lack of adequate, or lack of understanding of how to prepare in advance, not just musically, but your whole self. Okay. Number 2 was a lack of centered presence and self-integration of the mind, body, emotions, and creative spirit, and really understanding how to make yourself number 1. Your being is way more important than anything you do, including your musical product, your performance, right? Mistake number 3 was trying to control the performance anxiety. And not just that, but trying to control it with partial and inadequate tools like the ones I mentioned. And of course, there are other ones out there too. But the only system that I've ever come across that really addresses the whole self and exactly how you bring yourself to your musical instrument, including your technique and your musicianship. I don't know of any system out there other than the Alexander technique, the way I teach it within the context of the Art of Freedom method. Again, that's Primal Alexander, hands-free, and it's in my context of the Art of Freedom method, which is all about my 5 pillars are purpose, mind, body, spirit, and your artistry. There are things that just address the mind, just address the emotions, just address the spirit. That would be prayer, which also is very wonderful. But none of these things brings it into the specifics of how you're lifting your instrument, how you are approaching it, what relationship you have with your instrument and your audience and your fellow musicians. I mean, there's so much that goes into a performance, and all of it needs to be looked at if you want to know consistently how to be present with your whole self and bring your whole self to your audience through your music with ease. So the Art of Freedom method is great. Just be blunt about it, just putting it out there. And now I just want to just tell you how I can teach you all of this. And I keep saying it's easy because it is. You want to learn how to make music with ease. What you practice, you get. So if you want a result that's free and easy and in flow, you have to know how to practice that way. So my program that's coming up is called the Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough. And I can guarantee that by the end of the 6-week program, it's really not that long. It doesn't take long to go through. It takes 6 weeks, right? But the transformation that you can experience in 6 weeks with really not a lot of time put into it. People sometimes say, oh, I'm too busy. This isn't a good time for me. honestly, why delay something that is going to make you feel so much better in every aspect? If you've got pain or you're trying to overcome an injury, why wait and try some partial system, whether it's physiotherapy? And again, everything out there has its merit, but why not a system that is proven to work, that you are in control of because it's your thinking that makes the difference? So this 6-week program, by the end of it, I guarantee that whatever you're struggling with, your performance anxiety will improve. You will have tools to implement. Time and time again, my students tell me that they feel so much calmer even after the first week. I have students very frequently telling me after 2 weeks, oh, my pain is so much better. It's basically gone. Some people, it's totally gone after just a couple weeks. There are no guarantees that anything is going to be completely solved, but I can guarantee that by the end of the 6 weeks, you will have improved significantly and you will know how you did it, and you can repeat it so that you can keep improving. If you just do the daily exercises that I give you, these are mind-body exercises that we call awareness etudes without your musical instrument. If you practice these for just a few minutes every day, it's like 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the evening. If you don't have time for that, then are you really putting yourself number one and your well-being number one? I don't know. That could be why you have performance anxiety that's not going away or pain that's not going away. So it's a system. I tell you exactly what to do. It's very easy, very quick. You just have to be consistent and dedicated to doing it. And then I guarantee you get results or 100% of your money back. No problem. You try it, you commit to doing the work. It's easy work. It's not time consuming. You get the results. And you're going to feel totally different by the end if you do the work. Okay? You'll understand what to do for yourself. In this program, what you get, what the actual, how it works, let me just hop over here and I'm going to read to you what's in the program. You get 2 private coaching and review sessions with me personally. We'll schedule it at your convenience. Time zones are never an issue. We work them out. Okay. But you get personalized guidance from me so that I can look at your unique challenges, what's going on in your situation, and give you very personalized advice. So you know exactly what to work on and what your personalized next steps are. And you get to keep all the recordings, by the way, of everything that I do in the private sessions and also in the optional group sessions. So speaking of that, you get 3 breakthrough group sessions. There's an orientation session, 2 Q&A office hours. You get the recordings for those if you can't make it. They're optional. Sometimes people are not able to come to the group sessions. It's really okay, because also I'm in a private Facebook group that you're a member of all the time. So if you have questions anytime outside of the sessions, I'm there for you. I'm there to support you, to give you additional extra teachings, to give you what you need. And it's very personalized. Then on day 1 of the 6 weeks, you get access to my Jumpstart Self-Study course. This is the Musician's Advantage Jumpstart Self-Study course, in which you'll get your home action plans that guarantee your improvement. You're going to learn the foundations of the Alexander technique. You're going to learn the specific way to practice it with Primal Alexander, hands-free, by yourself, in a way that is, again, guaranteed to work or your money back. What else do you get? In this particular session, I always change things up a little bit. So no session of this program is exactly the same one time to the next. In this session, you get 3 advanced classes. So once you've gone through the self-study course, you're going to really understand how to practice the Alexander technique for yourself in a way that every single day you're making progress. Once you've done that, you are eligible to join the Musician's Advantage advanced group classes, and you are welcome to join us and come and be a member and participate for 3 weeks. And in those sessions, we do group awareness etudes together. We have a topic of the week discussion. You can ask any questions, and there's also masterclass style teaching for people who are in my membership who have signed up, where I really work one-on-one and we turn everybody else's camera off. So it's really like a private session. So you get to see how I work with people in there. And like I said, there is a private Facebook group. So really there's tons of material that you can take advantage of. But if you're busy, all you really need to get the results, to know how to conquer your performance anxiety and undo excess tension and start getting out of pain for once and for all, like get control over what's going on in your body, know how to relieve the pain. I can't guarantee it'll cure your pain, although it happens to a lot of people, but I can guarantee that if you're feeling uncomfortable in your body, you will have skills that are going to help you feel better by the end. Your money back, right? That's my guarantee to you. Nobody has ever asked for their money back because it always works when people do the work. If you do the work, you get the results. If you practice, you get better. You're a musician, you know that. If you practice, you get better. So again, that is my course. Tomorrow is Friday and registration closes tomorrow. So type the word harmonics into the chat now if you would like to get in touch with me, if you like me to get in touch with you, if you want some more details about the musician's mind-body breakthrough and how it can help you with performance anxiety or whatever you're struggling with that is keeping you from fully enjoying your music making. So that's what I've got for you today. I thought I want to leave a little time for Q&A in case somebody has some questions. But before that, I just really wanted to share a few things that my students have been saying. I'm going to read some of this for you because it's really helpful, I think, for people to hear about other people's experience. You can hear me talk till the cows come home, right, until I turn blue in my face. But to hear it from someone else about their experience going through this program, I'm just going to read some quotes for you so that you can hear about other people's experience. So here is someone who says, I had no idea how radically this work would transform my playing, my teaching practice, and my life. It's helped me with the transition to online teaching during COVID. This is an educator. It's given me more freedom and control over myself, and I hurt less too. Okay. That is Joseph Mish. He's a conductor and double bassist. Kalindi True is a violist, and she says this, quote, I had my first ever pain and anxiety-free performance yesterday. I played 3 Easter worship services in a row. I had several solos, and get this, I literally forgot to be nervous. I just love that. She says, I literally forgot to be nervous. No heating pad afterwards, no painkillers, no ouch. She says, I haven't been able to say that in decades. Here's another violist that says, I'm so excited. Your classes are a real highlight of my week, and I'm amazed at the changes I feel in my playing and my whole approach to practicing. It's been a wonderful journey so far. And I'll just read one more. Tisha is a violinist. And by the way, I work with all kinds of instruments. These just happen to be more violin, viola. But really, any instrument, any skill level, you're welcome. So Tisha says, I've noticed a huge shift in life in general. I feel happier and my anxiety level has diminished in stressful situations. I'm less tense, less reactive. I'm smiling more. The excruciating neck pain I've endured for decades has subdued tremendously. I'm healing. I'm so glad I found Jennifer. So there are a whole bunch on this page that I pulled up, and I could go on and on. But if you want to read more success stories, in the Musicians Advantage Facebook group, you can go to the topics section of the group and you can find musician success stories. There are a whole bunch there. Long paragraphs from people and pictures of the people I've worked with. And you can also go to my website, www.artoffreedom.me, where you can read more about me and my work and read about people's experiences. So just wanted to share that with you and remind you, I've said it many times, but I feel so strongly that this work is revolutionary. There's nothing else like it that integrates every aspect of who you are with the nitty-gritty specifics of your instrumental technique. No matter what your instrument is, I can help you play. I was just working with one of my coaching clients yesterday. She's a bassoonist, and we were working on very specific things like how she brings the reed to her mouth and all kinds of things. I worked with oboists, working on musical phrasing and the specific ways that he was holding his arms and the technique of his fingers. We go into real specifics of playing the instrument with more effortless ease and how to conquer performance anxiety. This is how to conquer it. You develop the mind-body skills that really everybody should be learning from the time they're little. We should all have these skills. They are so powerful. They are central to our existence as human beings. I wish everybody on the planet knew how to have more conscious, constructive control over themselves. I think we'd have a much more peaceful world and healthy world. Our environment would be healthier and our relationships would be healthier, and we'd just be a lot happier people if we had these skills. So if you want to learn how to really just bring your best self to your performance without fear, you want to feel confident and calm and relaxed in your body, you can do that. You can do that. So I strongly urge you to check out the Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough and register before Saturday, like by the end of tomorrow. That's when registration closes, the end of Friday, midnight Eastern. Reach out to me. Really, send me a message, send me an email to jennifer@artoffreedom.me, and I would love to talk with you about whether this program is right for you, if it would be a good fit for you. Okay, that's it for my presentation. I'm going to hop over to the comments right now because I said I'd stay on for a little Q&A. If you're watching and you have any questions about anything for me, just throw them into the comments. Also, if you're watching the replay, like I said before, I always circle back to the comments and try to interact with each of you so that we can really develop a relationship. I don't like to always be the one, putting stuff out there. I really want to, hear back from you. Is this useful? Is it helpful? Does it shift the way you think about things? Are you using some of the things that you're learning in my Facebook group? And tell me about it. I love to hear how it's helping you. And again, just last plug, actually I'll probably mention it again at the end, depending how long I go, but the best way, you can learn so much from my free materials, but it's night and day if you step into one of my programs because you need to learn the awareness etudes. And I teach the cycle, which is the very first one. That's even free on YouTube. But after that, there are so many awareness etudes, and you really need to develop a systematic practice of that to get the kind of incredible results I'm talking about. So somebody, and I wish I could see your names. I still haven't figured out how. I thought doing this in the Facebook group would allow me to see everybody's names, but I'm just seeing Facebook user, which is really frustrating. But I want to thank you all so much for being here, all of you Facebook users. And somebody here says, you won't regret it. Best thing I've done for myself. I can enjoy my music instead of just working at it. Thank you so much for that comment. I really appreciate it. Do tell me who you are so I can thank you personally. Someone else says, yes, you won't regret it. Thank you. You're also supportive. This is great. Oh, yes. And harmonics is showing up. When I circle back, I will see who these names are and I will message you. If you're just coming on now, if you want details about the Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough, just type the word harmonics in there and I will get in touch with you and we'll have a chat about the program and I'll give you more details. So, are there any questions showing up here? Oh, I love these recaps. I think this is Zamba who's kind of recapping what I've said. I love that. Thank you, Zama. I'm sure that's so helpful for other people. Someone says, that's me, people pleaser. Yes, as I said, most of us here in the classical world, in my group, in my world, we are really good, sincere, dedicated, earnest people, and we like to make other people happy, and we like to be good people, but it's risky business to go into people-pleasing territory because then you're not really taking care of yourself, and then you can't really help other people as you could if you were making yourself number one. Yeah, great. Someone said that was fantastic. Good. I'm so glad you're you're enjoying this. Somebody said, thank you for your time today. You are so welcome. Oh, Nina, thank you for putting your name in there. Nina says, I tuned in today as a refresher. Nina was my student way back, and she still uses everything I taught her, which is great. Nina says, I tuned in as a refresher today because my dulcimer students often ask about dealing with performance. I can attest to how much your teaching has helped me in performing. Ah, oh, thank you, Nina. Thank you so much for dropping in and for sharing that. Wonderful. Okay, great. Somebody hit send. Somebody says, AT has helped me with my violin performance and playing. Yes. Obviously, most of my students end up being violinists and violists, but I have so many people who are non-violinists in my group that it really doesn't matter to me. We're all working on this instrument, the self. That's what's really important. So, okay, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you so much for being here. And I am going to upload this to YouTube. If you liked today's video, please hop over to my YouTube channel and subscribe. And once this is uploaded, it'll be by the end of the day, probably within a few hours. I'd be so grateful if you would share this video today or tomorrow and share it with anybody who you think could benefit from this work. I'm asking you to share it soon because, as I said, tomorrow is the last day to register for the Musician's Mind-Body Breakthrough. So if you know anybody, maybe you have students with performance anxiety, you might want to share this video with them and tell them that I have a program that would dramatically help them with it and that they need to sign up or just at least get in touch with me. You just need to get in touch with me as soon as possible so that we can have a chat to see if the program is right for whoever it is, for you, your students, whoever. I can, chat with you briefly, ask a few questions, make sure, you're not, I just want to make sure that people that I don't know aren't like spammers or some, I don't know, you kind of need to know who it is. So I ask a few questions, but basically this is for you if you're a musician and you want help with performance anxiety. I will send you details. All right, so thank you and you're welcome. Lots of love to you. I hope this was useful and I'll see you next time. Bye.